Welcome to this week's Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Case Jr. As our return guest, we have Jim Schoffstall, and he will be sharing a testimony about his salvation. So stay tuned because it's going to be good. Hello, and welcome back to Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Case Jr. with Jim Schoffstall. So, tell us, Jim, take us back to the day.
Oh man, my salvation story. See, now I grew up in church. In fact, this church was one of the churches that during my childhood I really grew up in
Okay.
kids church here at Muir Ford Square here, and also Fear Not Assembly of God. Those were the two churches that my family had gone to, and my understanding of salvation uh, early on, I had a kid's understanding at that point. Um, I think what really we used to have camps at a place called Evangel Park around here, and it was uh, it was basically like a weekend camp for a week, like a week, could be a week or a weekend. Somebody will correct me in comments. If not, it's you're welcome to. But it was all I remember is it was a time where I spent memorizing the verses, Bible verses and stuff like that, and really shaped me going into my adolescent years and stuff. It was something that I'm really thankful to my parents for establishing that in my life, because it was something that I really didn't realize the benefits of it until you get older, and you don't. You just think like, I'm a kid, I'm here to have fun.
Yeah,
I'm
the
learning. I'm
lessons.
learning about God. I'm learning about God, but that's not the cool portion of this. The cool portion is I get to play sports and eat candy.
Yeah,
You
the
know.
lessons we learn as children don't really, they stick with us,
Yeah.
but we don't really realize their lessons until we
Oh,
grow older.
absolutely. But I just remember just a big highlight from my childhood years was growing up and going to those camps and stuff like that and learning about God. And I would say the first time I really conscientiously accepted the Lord into my heart was at those camps at a young age, and um, it was something that I knew I could share with my friends even at that age, that God's doing something in my life, that God's doing a real thing with with a kid like me. Even it was something that was cool, that was really established early on. And as I grew up, one of the big catalysts for me was music. The huge thing. I could learn a verse, but if that verse was a song, I knew that verse. And a lot of the old hymns, that's what a lot of them are. Um, yeah, you may not know this, but I know a lot of hymns. If there's a hymn reference that the worship team needs, I'm an open book. I got it.
We don't really, that's not the style of worship we do here,
Yeah.
it's the hymns.
Yeah, we'll have
We reference
moments.
that.
Yeah, we'll have moments where we'll go back and we'll do a hymn.
Rock style.
Yeah, yeah. But it was such a, again, like I said, it was such a help to have. God really used that for me. Used music for me to reach me in times where I may have felt confused early on in my life, and I knew I had music. I knew, like, it was you know Christian music early on. It was everything to me. It was something just like, not only do I have the concrete stuff in the Bible, which to me most of the time at that time in my life, I didn't really feel like all the time just going back and being in my Bible a whole lot, but I could still be fed through these worship songs, and still be fed through this Christian music that's out now. And I do just that. I had friends when I was in grade school and early in high school. I remember I specifically had a friend that, like, she said something to me along the lines of like, how do you only have Christian music CDs? Like I had a big thing, a Velcro thing I opened up and I had all these CDs. And because it was so important to me that I didn't stray from that because I don't know what's down that other road. I don't want to know because I'm loving this right now. I'm loving the music. I'm loving how God's a part of this music. And but I had a friend that she had said something to me like, how are you the way you are, and how do you just have Christian music? And I was like, I don't need anything else. And that was my answer. It's like I just don't. Like at that time, especially, I was just raw about my answers. I was just like, I don't need anything else right now. I don't think anything else is doing anything for me. And again, a big thanks to my parents establishing that. My parents were singers when I was a young kid. They had a group that they would in a singing group. I think it was called Salt, and they would travel up and down the East Coast. It was a thing. It was not many people know about it, but it was bad.
That up.
Yeah, yeah. Look it up. Absolutely. My parents were in a group called Salt, and it was something, again, it established early on. It's just like, not only can I get fed, in the word, I can get fed through this and I can be encouraged, in the word, but I could also be encouraged in these songs that are being sung because the Lord is alive in them. And it was just something that really set a perfect foundation that would stick with me even when I would stray later on in my life. I always had that music, in the back of my mind. I know a lot of you out there will have. It doesn't have to be a Christian song. You guys have songs that just come back to you that remind you of things, and that's what music is. It reminds you. It reaches out to you, especially in times when you have no words, when you don't have an answer to things, and you just need a moment.
Yeah, I have a song for every memory.
Yeah.
And it's a song I connect with
Yeah.
to that memory.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Music is so powerful, and I'm so thankful to God and my family for establishing that early. Now, when I was I was in grade school and in high school. My brother, I have one brother, and he's a musician, and he is 5 years older than I am. He also helped establish music. Music was a thing that was just all over the place in our house, and it was wonderful. I just remember when I was young, somebody asking me if I could play Wipeout. That's always the question you get asked when you're in like 5th or 6th grade. Mm-hmm. You're a drummer, can you play Wipeout? Because, if you can't play Wipeout, you're not a drummer, at that age, So I could, and I loved the fact that I could play Wipeout, and I would show it off. But my brother was in the jazz band in the high school at the time I was in grade school, and they had a song called Carnival del Sol, and it sounded a lot like Wipeout. And it was the first time I ever there was a thing at that Evangel Park that I was talking about, the camps. There was a thing that we had through this church here at Muir Four Square. We had a thing that we did called the Harvest Banquet, which was basically a talent show of people at the church. If you told jokes, you told jokes. If you sang there. If you played an instrument, just get up on stage and play it for a little bit. It was just a time of fellowship. It was fun. The first time I ever played in front of people on the drums, and for those of you who know me, this is a very significant thing. But it was me and my brother. My brother plays trombone. He played Carnival del Sol, and I played along with him. I played on the drum set. He played on trombone. And that was the first time I played in front of people. And it was something, again, in my salvation walk, it was something that it was like I was sharing and I was encouraged by people I could see in the church. It wasn't just something where like, look at me, I'm playing. I watched my church family at a young age encourage me to do that. That is so important to be encouraging younger people to be doing stuff besides mischief.
Oh, absolutely.
And I sound like an old man when I'm saying that. I feel like an old man when I'm saying that, but it's so important to no matter what it is, direct our youth to something, anything positive, especially in the climate that we have now in the world. It's something that is so important, and I felt that encouragement early on in my salvation walk, and just in my walk in general. Um, and as I grew older, now I'm going to do a time jump because that was my life for a little bit. It was just music, doing the marching band stuff through high school. We had a Bible club at our high school that we did early on. There was a couple there that it was my first opportunity to feel what it felt like to lead people, which was weird for me because I didn't feel like a leader. But we had a group, and I'm like, well, somebody's got to step up and do it. And I was more of the upperclassman in it, and it was something where it's like I didn't know I was stepping into a leadership role, but I was, and God was using me in that, even if it felt small. It wasn't. Um, but we had established that early on. And one of the big things then when I was in high school was the school shootings. It was just such a big thing, and it was not hard, unfortunately. It wasn't hard to reach out to people during that time because people were feeling it because the big one was Columbine, the big one, and people were. It's not hard to talk about feelings when there's such a heaviness in the world, because people have it. People are wearing it at that point on their sleeves. People are wearing it, what their feelings are, because there's no reason to hold back anymore. There's just no reason to, because it's so out there and it's in your face. And during that time and right around the time I was getting to be mid to upperclassmen was 2001 was when 9/11 happened. So it was definitely something that God was using tragedy to just help me to help me to understand that He is an ever-present help in the time of need, that He is always there for us. In the realest sense, when we don't have words, He's there for us. When we don't know what to say to other people because they're affected by a tragedy, that He can be the one to give us those words, that we can be the conduit to what the Lord wants to do maybe in somebody else's life, especially if we're not feeling it, if we're also feeling it, you know what I mean? Right. So it was something during those times. I know it's crazy to think that, it's not crazy to think it, but it's something that early on in my Christian, or mid in my Christian walk, it was something that the tragedies were really, that they were so heavy in the world at that time. There wasn't as much media, the things that happened were huge that were happening because there wasn't, a billion things happening in the world, that the media was everywhere, but it was concentrated on those big events. And it was huge because nothing had happened in my lifetime like that. So it was a great opportunity to reach out to people and to let people know that, you don't have to grieve the way other people grieve. You don't have to feel that pain maybe the way other people feel that pain, that you have a hope. And it helped me, it helped me lead and be and show love in a way that maybe the circumstances sucked, but it was a way that I knew I could show love early on in my life and my leadership walk and in my walk period. And it was something, as I went to graduate, everything hit the fan in my life. It was no longer about, oh yay, music, oh yay. I love reaching out to people and everything, but it became about, my brother graduated 5 years prior, and he was away. He was gone. It was me at home. It was just me chilling at home, and it was just me and the parents, and the parents weren't getting along, and they had felt that they needed to get a divorce, and when they got a divorce was when I was graduating. So again, the forgiveness is already there, and the pain was very real at the time, but I remember just feeling so helpless. I knew I had God, but it was something like I just felt like this lonely boat out in the middle of the ocean. I was just like, well, there goes my help over there, and oh, they're breaking off, and they're going. The friends I had from high school were going off to college. They were gone. We had kept in touch, through the phone and stuff like that, but it was something that it was the loneliest time of my life, and it was also a very important time. It was a transition
Yeah,
point.
transition into adulthood.
Yeah, but God had families that had reached out to me, that I had gotten through those times, and I'm thankful for those families, and I'm thankful for God for those families. But excuse me, and through all of it, I never I got mad at God. I got mad at God. I never cursed him or anything like that. It never was something where it was like, man, I'm never gonna go back to being a Christian. I never took drastic steps like that. But in the back of my mind, I was so angry at God. And also during this time, I had mentioned that we had in a prior testimony Tuesday, I had mentioned I was in a band called Eyewitness. Our singer had contracted lung cancer, and that was like a month prior to my graduation.
All these things are happening.
Yeah, all these things. I mean, I don't. Every single time I would tell my testimony, it's just like this moment of my life it was just chaotic and depressing. And it's just like, and I don't want people to hear that, like, I want you to feel sorry for me here. I'm just telling you where God brought me from, because I was really to the point where I needed to only see God in these things. I needed to not hit rock bottom, but be so stinking close and just be like, okay, God, I have nothing else. I have no other answers. You are the answer. And but yeah, our lead singer, 6 months later, is unfortunately is usually the time that people pass away, if they're going to and not go into remission and stuff of lung cancer and cancer and stuff. But and I know that's changed over time, but unfortunately 6 months later, yeah, he had passed away. And it was something I struggled with. When I say I was angry at God, I was furious at this time. I was like, why did I dedicate my entire life up to this point to you, and you let this happen to me, and nobody's here. Like, in my eyes, nobody was there for me at that time. I had blinders on. There were people there. God had sent people there for me, and he was always there for me. But at that time, I had walls up. I had walls up. I had the blinders on. I was only seeing what my frustrated self was letting me see. And I think the part that really turned me around was, and I say turned around, it took years later. I was going to school for computer networking at Schoffstall Institute of Business and Technology, which I don't think exists anymore, or at least doesn't at Pottsville where I was going. But I was going to school, and I remember getting a phone call. I had moved out of the household where I was living before that took me in during this time, and I had gone off with a friend of mine that I was working with, and his girlfriend, and I was the third wheel in an apartment that we were staying in, and I love them for just reaching out to me and helping me there. But it was something where I got a phone call from Pastor Mitch, and he's like, hey, at the time I needed things in my life. I just needed like different things, like a vehicle and different stuff like that. And Mitch randomly, and I know this whole time my family's praying for me and my friends are praying for me. Did I want to admit it at that point? Probably not, because I was just wallowing in self-pity at that point. But I got this phone call, and I come over here. Now at this point I haven't been going to well, I've been going to church off and on at this point. I wasn't sure what was going on with me, and I was redirected back over here to Muir Foursquare, and Mitch was here, and Pastor Mitch he had a vehicle that he was just, he just wanted to bless me with, and
Praise the
I
Lord.
say it like that, and it was something that I was like, I wasn't praying for a vehicle. My praying days during that time were just really isolated to God help me calm down before I flip out. That's really what my prayers were isolated to. But I know I had people praying for me, and this is a sign of that God doesn't give up on us. And
So he met you where you were, and you
yes,
fit when you're on the ground, kicking your feet like a little child, not getting their way.
absolutely.
And he just, out of the blue, just blesses you
Yeah.
with something that you needed.
Yeah.
It's not something that you wanted. Just
Yeah.
wanted. It's something that you needed.
It's like when you're venting to somebody, and you're screaming, like at the most extreme level, and like you're basically screaming and getting a lot of things out, and they just calmly look at you and they're like, I love you. It was just like God just,
those moments.
and somebody, like, it was just like a warm hug. It was just like God just embracing me. And again, it was basically during a time where I was shivering cold. I had a lot of walls up, and it was just a warm hug during that. And it was something that I know was a nudge, a push to get me, not as leverage from the person, Pastor Mitch. It wasn't anything. I think it was all God. I think it was completely all God. That was just like, listen, I'm still here, dude. You've been on a roller coaster, and I'm still here. And if you want to come back, I'm still here, and I still love you. And I had come back to the church at that time, and that's when I had, after a while, after working things out of my heart and rededicating my life back to the Lord at that time, that I got the opportunity to play on the worship team.
Awesome.
And during this time, this was one of the beginning stages of when me and Pastor Luke, the pastor here at New York Foursquare, it was when Pastor Luke was, we first started playing together, because we always like to talk like we've been playing together for so long. This was the beginning stages of when we were playing together, and it was so cool, because it was really just me and him. It was me and him, and I got to have that intimate time, learning from God, and during this time, it was really something where I just knew I had to. It was those moments where I had to be still, and stop flailing my arms and trying to figure everything out, and trying to get, giving myself anxiety and all this stuff, but to be still and know that He's God and He's with me. So, and from then on, I've had struggles. We all do. From then on, I had struggles here and there, and God's used those moments in the past to really establish that foundation, and to really send the Holy Spirit with me to guide me in those things that really I'll have moments where I'll be like, I'll get caught up in myself, or a tragedy will happen, and I'll be like, man, I'm feeling those feelings again, God. And He'll be like, yeah, you're feeling those feelings again. Remember what happened before? And He goes, I'm still here.
Amen.
So,
God will never leave us nor forsake us.
amen.
For He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His mercies are new every morning, and His grace is sufficient for today. For His power is made perfect in our weaknesses.
Yep. But that's what I got, and I love that the story goes on. There's always more to the testimony. It's always great.
Our testimonies are never over until we're with the Lord in eternity.
Yep.
So that's all we have for this week's Testimony Tuesday. I'm your host, Charles Gates Jr., with my guest, Jim Schoffstall. And we say, God bless you, be blessed, and stay blessed in Jesus' name.
Amen.